Hello and welcome to the You Can Do It show. I am your host, Pascal Ream, and today we have with us here via Skype in LA, Ryan Sean Davey, a director and filmmaker. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Pascal. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So today I mainly wanted to focus on, you will be doing a bike ride from LA to New York. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I leave in 4 days from now, and I will be cycling 3,300 miles by bicycle within a 65-day period to raise the development money for my feature-length film, which is to do with mental illness within teenagers and youth, narcissistic personality disorders, and anxiety and schizophrenia.
Sounds interesting and complicated.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is a. In fact, it is a very complicated story. I've sent the screenplay off to various people who have read it, and they love the story. Even the development company that will be developing the film, they absolutely love it, and they want to be a part of it, and they're working with me as much as they can so that we can raise this money together. But it's a very intricate and complicated story, and very, very involved. And I think it's going to kind of be a genre amongst itself. There's nothing quite like it. So that is why I'm getting the support. Unfortunately, the development does cost money, which is the money I have to raise.
How do you plan to raise the money through the bike ride?
So the idea is really to get the people's attention by doing the cycle. At the same time as, obviously we'll be handing out whatever we can to get people onto the website to make pledges. But I don't like to just sit, behind a computer and expect people to make pledges for a campaign that we're launching. So for me, this is a way of doing my part, going out there, meeting people face to face, interacting with people, showing them that I am dedicated. Also, it's like literally taking the message and it's coming with me on my bike from town to town. And as I get to each town, I'll be approached and aided by the tourism office, and the tourism office are going to kind of get me around to all the various sites and the tourist attractions and the main events that take place in the town. And this is a means of me getting the word to people about the website, that they can go on and make a pledge, make a donation. And in this case, we're not trying to raise the full budget of the film. We're only trying to raise the development budget of the film. Yeah, it's going to be. I'm nervous, to be honest with you, but at the same time, I love being nervous. It's part of my kind of makeup in that I love being scared. And I'm going to be averaging about 80 miles a day. It's not so much the mileage that's going to be the problem. It's really the conditions. So, and then there are 3 or 4 days that I have to do 120 miles, purely to catch up, because I only have 60 days for the campaign, because that's the maximum time that Indiegogo allow a campaign to be run, which means that it may take me 65 days to get to New York, according to my sort of schedule that I've marked out. So I have to leave 5 days before the campaign actually starts, in which case I'll launch the campaign from Palm Springs or maybe even Phoenix, depending again on weather conditions and how much I get delayed. So I will already be en route when the campaign gets ignited. So hopefully that by the end of the campaign, I am standing underneath the Statue of Liberty in New York, if all goes well.
So obviously weather is going to be a big factor as to when you're actually riding the bike, but where are you going to sleep at night?
The idea behind the campaign is obviously to reach out and meet people. So wherever possible, I would love to stay with people, even if it's just people I meet in the street or meet in the mall or whatever. I can say, hey, I'm on this campaign. I got nowhere to crash. Can I come put my tent on your back lawn or backyard or whatever? Purely because I want to interact. I want people to talk about the campaign. But there are a couple of stretches, mainly between, I'd say, LA and Arizona, where there are long stretches without anybody or any farmlands or anything inside. So those areas like Joshua Tree, I will have to obviously spend the night in my tent. So I will have a small little tent with me. I've got a sleeping bag. I've got some cooking utensils with me. It's very, very basic, obviously just enough to boil some water. Um, and then I will be carrying my technology with me. Obviously, I'm going to be documenting the entire trip because I'm a filmmaker. So obviously, I want to be able to make a documentary about the trip. So I'll have several cameras with me. But really, the clothes I'm wearing, which will be a cycling outfit, that's pretty much the only clothes I'll have through my 2 months of being on the bike. Because I just simply don't have any space for anything else. It's all been taken up by more important things like cameras are first, and then the laptop to edit, and then food will have to come second, and then water will have to come third. So
You're gonna get a lot of exercise through that. I'm saying, like, wow. Uh,
yeah, well, I have been training extensively in the last 2 months, and that involves run, swim, and cycle schedule every day. I pretty much wake up in the morning, go on an hour gymming program, which really is a bit of cardio and a lot of leg work and torso work, just so that I can exercise and keep those muscles energized, and then I'll get out of the gym and get some work done on the computer, building the website, getting the editing done of the campaign video. And there are actually 3 websites, so there's a lot of work involved in the actual website design. It's the Cold to the Bone, the actual feature film website, and then it's the campaigns website, and then it's the Indiegogo website. So those have taken up a lot of my time. And then I will get back on my bike middle of the day, and I'll cycle to Hollywood, to the swimming pool at the gym there, and then I'll swim for an hour, which is generally about 120 to 150 laps on a 25-meter pool, and then I'll get back on my bike, cycle back home, which is it's about a 20-mile cycle, and then get some more work done on the computer. And then when the Wi-Fi spots have all shut down, which is usually about 11 o'clock, because I don't have Wi-Fi where I am, then I hit the gym again for another hour. So I sleep well.
I know you have done the bike ride around Michigan, but have you ever done anything near this extent where you're going from LA to New York?
Yeah, no, I've never done anything this big, and I try not even talk about it to people at this point in time because they'll say a lot of things to put me off. I'll only start really announcing it when the campaign's open. But no, the only thing close would have been the Myrmidon mission, which was a 1,300-mile cycle in 40 days, and that was actually considerably easy to do because I was managing 30 miles a day. I think the hardest day was an 80-mile cycle with a headwind. I remember that I'll never forget that day because I stopped off at a Walmart and I bought one of these mixed fruit, dried fruit trail mix bags, and I put it in a little basket in front of me, and it was like my body was like a steam engine. I was just eating it, and I could just feel it getting absorbed straight away in the bloodstream because literally, the wind was strong. I don't know what it was, but it was gale force winds and it was gusty. So it would hit you and then it would disappear, and then I'd kind of almost fall off my bike because there's no resistance, and then it hits me again. So that went on the entire day, and I had obviously reached my mark because I had people waiting. So that was about the hardest day that I had. And the difference between that one and this campaign is kind of chalk and cheese because this is going across country through desert, and I think the desert's going to be pretty interesting because I have been to Palm Springs once, and just walking around, it was deadly. I mean, the minute you walk out the house or the flat or whatever, you get hit by not only this intense microwave heat wave, but the sun just pounds. So I'm sort of geared up for that as far as covering my body. I've got like a mask and a big visor thing. I'm going to look a bit like something out of Mad Max or something out of an astronaut movie. But it's really just to protect my body because I don't want to finish this campaign looking 300 years old. But the one thing I'm not really sure about is the heat, what I'm in for. So what I may have to do with the desert is cycle by night and hide during the day. And then, of course, in Michigan, I hit two storms. Um, one was pretty electric. There was a lot of lightning around. I remember hiding. I remember cycling through some sort of forest looking for a place to hide, and I saw a tree house. It was some little kid's tree house, and I hid in there for about 3 hours. I've learned my lesson from that is waterproof everything. So the last sort of month or so, I've been ordering equipment and casings for all the cameras and the laptops in there, just to protect it from bumps and, of course, weather. And then I think the other hardest thing in Michigan was there were long stretches between shops and places like that. But the beauty about it was that people were friendly in Michigan. I kind of knew the state. I'd been in it for sort of 3 months or so. So I kind of knew where I was, and going around in one big circle is sort of more comforting than going across an entire country, because you're heading into complete no man's land.
I really don't think I could do that. In the desert, I'd be terrified that I'd run out of water. I mean,
Yeah, that's a big concern, absolutely. And it's not like Michigan, where I wasn't worried about water at all because I was right next to. Whereas this one is different because I've checked some of the routes that I will be going in, and there is not even so much as a lake or a pond in anywhere near my routes. Um, I guess worst case scenario is I will be on a road, so if I do run out of liquids, I'm just going to wave a car down. Hopefully they stop.
hopefully.
The only trouble with cycling at night, and I had this problem in South Africa, is animals. So you can hit an animal, and if I damage my bike, that's it. I stop. The campaign stops. I'd have to try and organize another bike to get to me. So hitting a deer in the middle of a night on a bicycle, you can do some serious damage on the bike, and obviously to me, I can have some damage. So I've tried to have ordered a fancy light enough to give me at least a 10-meter warning if I'm going to hit something. But I've obviously been on a bit of a budget, a tight budget on this campaign. Otherwise, what's the point if I had the money to spend on fancy gear? So I don't really have the right lighting equipment that is going to aid in night cycling. But at the same time, it's in the middle of nowhere, so one's eyes can adjust to the dark a lot easier than what I would be in the city, where you're sort of how can I say distracted, or your eyes are irritated by refraction of the inversion layer. This way, it kind of adjusts a lot easier. And those full moon nights will help as well. So, yeah, a couple of challenges ahead, but where would the fun be if there wasn't any challenges, right?
That's true. Everyone loves a challenge.
Yeah, everyone loves a challenge, and we grow. It's an opportunity to grow, and I love America. I really do, and I think it's a good way of me, getting to understand the different cultures, and that is one beauty about approaching the tourism offices of sort of all the main states. I can't do every single town in every single state, but I'll be doing a lot of the bigger ones like Oklahoma, Phoenix, Palm Springs. Okay, I'm working backwards. And then Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, and there's one other one I'm missing, and then of course New York. Those are the ones that I'm sort of focusing on with the tourism offices, so if they can get me out there and get me exposed to people. But it will be a good way for me to get to understand the culture and get to understand the people and how dynamic this country really is. And the fact that I'm doing a documentary about it, I'm hoping the documentary is going to be pretty educational for Americans themselves, even though I'm sure majority of the Americans do understand their own country. But I'm hoping to come across people that are kind of hiding in the little alleys where we don't get to see, and help them share their story, which will be awesome.
Yeah, I'll be sure to watch that. I really want to see that documentary. But well, you've told us about the film Cold to the Bone. You've told us what it's about. What kind of settings are you gonna be filming this in? Have you done any location scouting? If so, what kind of locations, if it's not giving away part of the film?
Yeah, so I plan to shoot the film in Utah, and the reason why I like Utah is it'll double up as Alaska. So the pitch of the story is that it's a group of scouts that crash their plane in the Alaskan mountains and are forced to use their skills and knowledge to survive, but they're also caught in the midst of a tribal warfare, um, and the teenager involved is going through some sort of depression, and he takes the audience into his mind as he goes through this process of self inflicting and self modification of his depressed state. So it's a very powerfully psychological story. And what I like to do with films, or with stories at least, is you take a good story, and reading the story on its own could be an incredibly exciting experience. And then, like you find with people, everybody has layers. So, you have a certain layer about you that you expose to people on a day-to-day basis. Then you have another layer that you would expose to people that love you, like your family, your dog, or whatever. Then you have other layers that you would bring out when you go to a meeting, or when you're by yourself. These are all different layers and facets that people have of themselves. And the same as the story, I like to have all these layers that we peel off one at a time, and we start to eventually expose the real meat of the story. And then what I like to do is, once the story is complete and it works as a whole story, I like to add a layer on top of that, and a texture layer. So in this case, it's the snow. I love the snow. It adds a much more extreme scenario to the story, and it becomes part of the story. So when I was heading back from Michigan after doing the Paracidal Effect, I drove through Utah, and I just loved the place straight away. So I went to LA. I obviously spent 3 months writing the screenplay, and then I took the screenplay back to Utah, and I sort of matched some of the scenes with some of the locations, and I spent, I'd say, at least 3 or 4 weeks just driving the whole of Utah area, trying to find the very specific locations that I needed. And I fell in love with the place, and then I went back again 3 months later when the snow was there, and it was completely different scenario, complete different topography. I remember one stage we took a snowmobile out to one of the locations that I had found where the plane crashes, and I jumped off the snowmobile and I disappeared up to my neck in snow, and I was like, okay, this is not going to work. We won't be able to shoot at this specific time of year. So the film became a lot bigger than what I anticipated, which meant a bigger budget, and that's why I then came back to LA, and I met up with a couple of distribution companies and a couple of development companies, and they absolutely loved the story and they loved the complexity of it, because to give you an idea, it's kind of like Lord of the Flies meets The Revenant. That's sort of how it's been categorized, and very intricate, very involved, very psychological, and it's, as I said, it's kind of a new genre of story. So with getting them involved, they said, Ryan, there's only one way to do this. Don't try and shoot this with private equity. Shoot it with a production house, a studio, finance, capital finance, as opposed to private equity finance. So that's why the production house said, okay, well, let's find a way to get the development money, and then once the development money is together, we'll approach the banks and the finance companies. So that's kind of how Cold to the Bone has evolutionized itself over the last year and a half. It's become a lot bigger than what I anticipated.
So what are you planning to raise exactly? Like, how much money are you trying to raise for Cold to the Bone? Because I would imagine it would cost a lot.
Yeah, the actual budget of the film is unknown at this stage. That's partly why we need the development funds, and we're trying to raise $65,000 on the development side. So that is what this campaign is. This campaign is about, is really just to raise that $65,000. And what that entails is once we have that money, it then gets sent to obviously the development company, which is really a legitimate, reputable company that specialize in developing films. And the nice thing is they don't just develop any film because they want to be a part of a film that they feel is actually going to go somewhere. So for them to have approved Cult of the Bone is a really good sign that they feel the film is bankable and marketable. Then what they do is once the story is complete, the script is everybody's happy with it and works as a story, and it feels right. It has its own tone and feel, and the character arc is working. And the story arcs works, and it has all the subtext, has all the metaphors that I want to put in the film. It has the state of imperfection going through to the state of imperfection through the psychological and emotional journey. All that works really well. Then they take that and they send it to a UPM. It's all outsourced. That's why the 65K is there. A UPM then breaks the film down into a schedule, well, initially into a budget and then a schedule. So the budget, like literally every single shot, is broken down to a point that they know exactly how long that shot's going to take to do. Well, we need a crane, or is it a steady cam shot, or is it an aerial shot? How much time is that going to take? How much equipment is that going to take? So every little element is broken down, and that's where initially they'll source, they'll find out what the budget will be. But in doing that, the development company also attach the cast, because the development company know what cast are working for certain territories. So if they feel that this is a more European film, then they'll bring an actor in that works in the European market and it sells well in the European market. And then they attach that actor to the film, to the package, and that's presented to the finance institution. So yeah, so to answer your question, initially we need 65,000, and then we'll know the exact budget once the development's done, which usually takes about 3 months.
So obviously this shows how much effort goes into making a film, not just while you're shooting, but beforehand. And it really shows your dedication to it, not to mention
the craziness of it.
Yeah, the craziness of it. There's so much that goes into it, and a lot of people don't get that. But you're following your dreams, and that's what's important. Even if it's a lot of work, you're doing what you love.
The one thing I just want to kind of cap it off with is I know you say it's passion and dedication, and that the real passion is and dedication is really the fact that I know how effective a film can be in changing lives, because I would not be a filmmaker if it wasn't for a specific kind of film that changed my life at 15. And I've always, I'm being a little transparent here, but I've always sort of suffered from depression ever since I was like 15 years old, and not many people know it, especially in my family. And it's just something that I felt was important to bring into this movie, because there are a lot of teens out there that keep it under the radar. They pretend to be happy, but they're not. And then they don't wait, or they don't talk to people, and they decide their own fate. And that is very, very tragic. And I'm really hoping that this film will, change lives and help people to relate and reflect. Not that I want to preach when people go into this movie. It's about entertainment. It's the bottom line. It's an entertainment film. But that's what's taken so long with writing the story, is I had to have found a very subtle way of bringing in this message, the strong message about, if you have an issue that is happening in your head, if your mind is not working right, you don't have to be a genius to know that something is not working so good in there. Reach out, speak to somebody, because there are people out there that can fix you. I just want people to be able to walk out of our movie having reflected on whatever their circumstances, and maybe help them make a decision that can save them and other people around them. So that's sort of the motivation behind getting this film made. It is my baby, but I wanted to help people. I wanted to save lives.
And a lot of people don't get that, but you're following your dreams, and that's what's important. Even if it's a lot of work, you're doing what you love. And I just want to thank you again for taking time out of your day, going to this lovely coffee shop, and joining us for this evening. Thank you.
No problem at all.
You can do it.